This meeting is now being recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jolene Bracey, Membership and Programs Manager with the NSPA, and I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar today. I want to thank you for attending. We are expecting a large group today. I do want to remind you to start off with that everyone is muted. If you have questions or comments, you can put them in the public chat on the lower left-hand side of your screen there or up in the Q&A box. Sarah and I will be monitoring questions during today's presentation. And I'd like to first introduce you to Rooke. Rooke is a writer, higher education, and leadership development professional. Currently, he is the program officer for college completion at the College Success Foundation in Washington, D.C. And Rooke was generous enough to do a revised webinar for us today on a topic he presented to us at last year's conference, which is students and social media. So, Rooke, I'm going to turn the presentation over to you.
Thank you very much, Jolene. I appreciate it, and thank you, Sarah, for helping me out with this. First, I want to say hello to everyone out there in Internet land. We're going to move through this presentation, and there will be some time allowed at the end of the presentation for a Q&A session. But if you have any burning questions that you feel you need to get answered immediately, definitely please make use of that chat box, and Jolene and Sarah will definitely interrupt me so we can get those questions out. So real quick, like she said, I have been in higher education for a while. I've been in nonprofit work for a while, probably total years, roughly 15 years in higher ed and student affairs. Most of that time had been in student support services or leadership development. So most recently, I've started working with the College Success Foundation, and in both of these positions, it involved a lot of outreach. It involved a lot of grabbing students where they were, trying to get them to come into the office, sit down, and have conversations with me. So that's how this presentation kind of came about as a result of the need to reach out to these students. So real quick, who is CSF and what do we do? The College Success Foundation here in Washington, D.C. was founded in 2006. It was created to address the issues of critically low graduation rates among students in wards 7 and 8. Those are the low-income wards in the District of Columbia. We are a subsidiary of the College Success Foundation, which was originally founded in Washington State in 2000, and we provide mentorship to middle school students, high school students, and most importantly, scholarships to those high school students going into college, low-income students, who are also, a good amount of them are high-performing, but our scholarship is not merit-based, it's an income-based scholarship. So oftentimes, while we may have a student that has a 4.0, we also have students that may have graduated with barely a 2.0 GPA coming out of high school. So that's a little bit about who we are, and in terms of what we do, we give a lot of money out. Since 2008 up until 2013, we've awarded approximately 1,200 scholarships to these low-income students in D.C. By the end of the school year in 2013, we had given out over $25 million. So it's a lot of money we've given to these students. And we also provide for them emergency and wraparound services, because typically low-income students have issues and problems and emergencies that need to be addressed immediately, and oftentimes it takes money to address those issues, which they don't readily have available to them. So we use a portion of our budget to take care of that as well. In 2013 alone, we've given over $6.5 million for scholarships, and currently we have over 700 students who are in college moving towards college completion. So once again, a bunch of students. We need to get in contact with them to get information, to give information, to make sure we can process scholarships and get that money to the school. And oftentimes, the best way to do is through social media. And there are a whole host of reasons why a lot of people stay away from social media, stay away from it like the plague. Some people are dead set against it. And it is a slippery slope, because sometimes you'll find that, we have students who have phone numbers that don't work. They're low-income students. They may be using these pay-for cell phones, and you may pay for 2-3 months at a time. But at the end of that time, you may run out of money and have ditched the phone and not gotten a new phone until 3 months later, and they're not advanced enough to port in old numbers into new phones. So now we have a brand new phone number out there. And as an administrator, I wouldn't know that unless the student comes to tell me. So we may need to get in touch with them because the phone numbers are bad. We may need to get in contact with them because they've gone on all these different websites, and we may have been emailing them. But as a result of visiting the entire internet, now they have all the spam coming to their inbox. So now they've changed their email address. Once again, if they don't tell that to us, we can't reach out to them because we don't have that new information, and that becomes a big issue for us. So in my opinion, that's why turning to social media is a big piece. Oftentimes when they get on the internet, that isn't anything they change. They stick with it, they run with it, and they move. So to start this off, what I would like to do is play a video that kind of highlights some of the issues that a lot of people who are dead set against using social media have with Facebook and social media platforms the like. Sarah, you could play that video whenever you're ready.
It's the Facebook one, Rashid?
The Facebook one. Timmy and Alice, the Facebook one, yes.
No. Will you chat him real quick and see if he is sharing his screen, because tell him we've got a number of comments that he hasn't.
Have a hard time making new friends when they see that he likes to dress up in Alice's undergarments. Those photographs sure are funny, but Alice just broke Facebook relationship etiquette number 2. Don't post embarrassing photographs of other people. Shame on you, Alice. It's okay, Alice. We all make mistakes. It looks like Timmy has posted some messages on Alice's wall. I can't believe you posted those photos of me. Sorry for being such a square. Baby, are you there? By the way, it was just a regular rash. TMI, Timmy, you've just broken Facebook relationship etiquette rule number 3. Be discreet when posting messages on another person's wall. Alice doesn't take the bait. She removes...
Go back to the file library. Sorry about this, everyone. I think we got disconnected from the video for a second.
Rashim?
Yes.
Yeah, we're having some trouble with that. So why don't we go ahead and move ahead, please? And we'll send the link out to the video.
Okay, great. If you send a link out and you get an opportunity to take a look at the link, you will notice within it they're identifying and highlighting a bunch of issues that people have with using Facebook. Oftentimes those issues lead to misunderstandings, to problems. To highlight some of those issues, oftentimes people don't like using Facebook because they find that a lot of people are in their business. They don't like using Facebook because, people can post these photos and tag you in these photos, or they may want photos out there just of themselves and their friends and their family members, and they don't want the students that they're working with to have the ability to see those photos. Not just tagging photos, but tagging locations. If you're out at a birthday party or a dinner or at a night at the movies, having that stuff out there. It's in other words, it's an overall invasion of privacy that people tend to have issues with. So yes, ma'am.
Rashim, we're not seeing your screen at all.
I have a now sharing on my screen, and I'm going to see if we can restart. You have it?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So we're sharing.
Nope,
so
now
are we back to it?
No. There it is.
Okay. I'm going to go to full screen mode again and see if let me know if it disconnects the sharing part. All right, I'm on my way back to full screen.
Yeah, nope, that's not working.
So what I'll do is we'll go and leave it here and move through the slides. You see everything?
Yes, we do.
What we won't do is I won't go to full screen, so we'll still be able to move through the slides without it being at full screen.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. So, yeah, big issue. People don't like the internet. They don't like Facebook. They don't like sharing personal elements of their own life with their students, their clients, their colleagues. So oftentimes people stay away from the platform. What I want to do is really just cover three things. And the first one is I want to be able to look at how pervasive social media is within our target populations. Why it's important to use social media, because the numbers don't lie. They speak to them for themselves. So I want to talk about how pervasive it is. I also want to talk about how we can use Facebook to reach out to these students. Some of the best practices, simple things that if you're using Facebook already, you already know about. We're not going to get too detailed, too in-depth. This is that introductory piece, especially for folks who've been adverse to using the platform. Just show them some things that they can do to use the platform to reach out to their students. And then third, I want to talk about how you can safeguard yourself. Talk about privacy, some basic things that we can introduce regarding privacy, and then you can take up, play with, experiment, and then set it up so that you have protected what you want to put out there, and you've managed the images and the impression that comes from those images, whether if it's you're sharing something or someone trying to share something on your behalf. So with that said, let's look at social media in general. Right now, there are 5 major players in the social media world: Facebook, Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Yahoo. And this gives the numbers. Facebook has over 1.7 billion users. And then underneath Facebook, there are 2 other applications. One's called WhatsApp. The other's called Instagram. For those who don't know what WhatsApp is, it's a text messaging application. Oftentimes our students don't have the money to pay for unlimited cell phone plans. or they have these paid-for systems, these monthly cell phone systems, and they have to pay per text. What they can do is download WhatsApp, and in downloading the application, they can text anyone else who has that application for free. And it's international, so they can do it whether on the West Coast, the East Coast, they have a friend in Jamaica, Trinidad, it doesn't matter. That was purchased by Facebook. Instagram, pictures. Everyone loves to take them. Everyone loves to post them. And that's what Instagram was about, to instantly put out there an image. And with WhatsApp, it's roughly 6 million users. With Instagram, roughly 600 million users, and with Instagram, roughly 200 million users. So just with Facebook and what it owns, we're talking nearly 2 billion users. I mean, Google's a close second, but Twitter and LinkedIn and Yahoo, they pale in comparison. So a lot of people are on these apps, and it's a part of their daily routine. When we look at this other piece, this graphic breaks it down by country. These are the top 6 countries and the population of those countries, the number of Facebook users, and then the percentage, when you look at those numbers, the percentage of people who are actually using Facebook. The United Kingdom, the United States, they're both over 50% of the population is using Facebook. Canada, the same thing. Argentina, the same thing. Malaysia, nearly 50%, over 50% of their population actually use Facebook. Colombia is less than 50%, but still 47% of the people who live in Colombia who are part of that population use Facebook. So what is this telling us? This is telling us that these are applications that people are on, and they're on daily. Some people would have us think now that folks aren't really using Facebook anymore, that teens aren't using Facebook anymore. Maybe it's the adults who finally caught on, and as a result, these numbers are high because of the adult usage or involvement. But we're going to go and look at some other numbers. When we look at some other numbers, we'll see there is a distinct difference with an age range. Offline adults by age, 18 to 29 year olds. 2% of them are offline. That means 98% of the people within that age range find themselves online. And then, of course, the older you get, the more that number increases in terms of the offline, and the less amount of people you find online. For 74% of those who are between the ages of 16 and 24 say they cannot be parted from their mobile phones at all. They feel that they have a need to have those mobile phones on them and on them all the time. What's happening is a lot of our students and a lot of our youth who find themselves in that online percentage, 98% of the people within the age range, 74% of them are using those phones that they have on them all the time to access the internet. And I think that's an important piece to see. I deal specifically with an age range that goes from high school and bleeds into college, because we start working with our students while they're in their junior year of high school to get them prepared for college, and then once they're in college, then to keep in contact with them. So when we break down the percentage of adults living in wireless-only households, and we look at it by age, when I look at this 18 to 24 age range, back in the days it was pretty low. It was at 27.9%. But it's risen to more than half of the people within that age range are in wireless-only households. Once again, this is pivoting us towards a phone, cell phone. They don't have landlines. They don't have desktop computers. So that 98% of them that we find online, they're using these handheld devices to access the internet. If you look at the economic piece, Once again, my students are low income. If there are students who are reaching out for scholarships, more than likely there are students who are in need. So when we look at the income piece, those who are poor or near poor, back in 2004, 8% of them were in wireless-only households. When we go all the way up to 2013, you have 54%, over half of the poor, and nearly half of the near poor, they find themselves in wireless-only households. Once again, I want to point to how pervasive social media has been, but I want to look at the tools that they use for social media. And right now, those tools end up being those cell phones, handheld devices. Some of them, we find them with Kindle Fires and iPads and iPad minis. They're using these non-desktop tools to get on the internet. And let's remember, 98% of the age group that we work with, that I work with, 98% of them are online. So they're getting online. How are they getting online? These numbers show that they're using their cell phones. There's one last piece I want to look at right here. Facebook demographics. Between the age of 18 and 34, the percentage who check Facebook when they wake up, 48%. Within that same age range, the percentage of those who are Facebook users check it before they get out of bed, 28%. Wake up, get out of bed. It ends up being the first thing they do in the morning. They're using the cell phones. They're using the iPad minis. The 98% of them who are going online, they're hitting Facebook as soon as they wake up in the morning. So what's going on is they've slept throughout the night. They've missed current events, things that may have taken place, superstars and celebrities who may have done things at the Grammys, and they decide to go to bed early and they want to catch up and see what's going on. The first place they're going is to Facebook. So in essence, what we are seeing is that Facebook is replacing the conventional things that we're used to. This is telling us that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, when people want to send special messages to each other, these tools of a new generation, what they end up doing is replacing the tools we had in our generation. The computer, the telephone, the yellow pages. People can now find friends on Facebook. When I was growing up, if someone said, look me up and I'm in a book, you went to the white pages. You went to the yellow pages. You looked for a business. You looked for a person. You let your fingers do the walking. Nowadays, I mean, and I saw this with my own two eyes, where a young man was talking to a young lady, and it got to that point where back in my day, we would just ask for a phone number. At that point, she said, I'm on Facebook. Go on ahead and find me and friend me. So Facebook is replacing the way we reach out to people, and of course, it's also replacing the newspaper, because that's how they're getting their current events. Sarah, the next page is the YouTube clip of the commercial. Do you want to try it?
Sure. Let's go ahead and give it a try. We'll see if we can get the audio to cooperate this time. And then at the end, just take back over.
Vacation photos. I'm saving a ton of time by posting them to my wall. Ooh, I like that one. It's so quick. It's just like my car insurance. I saved 15% in just 15 minutes. I saved more than that in half the time. I unfriend you. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. 15 minutes for a quote?
Rasheen, you can just go ahead and click back on screen share, and it should bring back your presentation.
Excellent. Are we sharing?
Yes, we are.
All right. Don't be a Beatrice. Beatrice has no idea that what she set up on her wall isn't what social media is. Our students are using social media. They're using it to stay in touch with each other. And at the very least, it would help us to understand how to use it to stay in contact with them. I like to point to the 7-11 rule. The 7-11 rule simply states that within 7 seconds of meeting a stranger, you may form approximately 11 impressions about them. What that tells me is, within a short amount of time, someone is forming impressions about us. So what we can do is best manage those impressions. Because if we choose to use social media to reach out to our students, best believe that as soon as you send them a message, the first thing they're going to do is look at your profile. Outside of the offices, they may know nothing about you. But our students are inquisitive, for lack of a better word, maybe nosy. But they want to know the people who have placed themselves in their lives. So we can manage those impressions. We can look to what we put out there. And when we look at what we put out there, we can manage that. Within the first 7 seconds, 11 impressions. So, what do we want to look at? The 4 rules of social media outreach. You want to engage, you want to disarm, you want to be authentic, and then you want to have some level of follow-up. Without those 4 things, using social media may not be as beneficial as we would like it to be. Now, in the context of being engaging, first thing you want to do is be able to reach out to those students, find them, see where they are. The easiest way to do it is to search for them. Search for them by name. Oftentimes you have a student, you can pop their name in the search bar that's in the top. You may get a bunch of options, especially if that student has a name like Tiffany Williams. The student in this case that I have on the screen, her name is Shantae Kent. First name spelled very uniquely, paired with a last unique name. So when I searched for her, she came up immediately. Immediately. That was an easy, quick fix. But if I can't find her by the name, most often we have email addresses for our students. A second way you can search for them is by putting in their email address. And it's the quick way to grab them, to engage them, to let them know that you're there. You want to be a resource to them. You search for them by name, you search for them by email address. And in some situations, if you can't find name or email address, they may not be on Facebook, or you may be able to search using another way. If you have an old phone number or even a current phone number, you can utilize a phone number and put a phone number in that search box and still be able to reach out to the student. So that might be a good way. Now, once you reach out to these students, you can contemplate whether or not you even want to send them a friend request. Most times we don't. I know I don't. If one of my students sends me a Facebook friend request, I may leave them on there so that they could, in essence, be a follower of mine, but not necessarily a friend. But that's a choice you would make. You make that determination whether or not you want to add them as a friend, or if you want them to add you as a friend. What I typically like to do to make sure that I have the right student is I look at that lives in. Where does that student live? If they live in Washington, D.C., I know it's my student. Sometimes their school will come up. If Central University, I know that's my student. It helps me to narrow through, because sometimes you can actually go through multiple students that come up, multiple individuals that come up to determine whether or not that's your student. So these are little cues that you can look for to help you determine whether or not that's a student of yours. Now, you've reached the student, you've searched for them, you found them, you determined that that is your student. You may have sent them a friend request or not. What do you do next? You might want to send them a message. This is one of the interesting pieces, because if you are not a friend of that student, an online friend, a Facebook friend of that student, at the bottom of the message box, after you've clicked on the little message icon, at the bottom of that box, it'll tell you that your message will go to an other folder, That's not their direct inbox. So what happens is you can send them a message and it goes to an other folder. And in this case, Shantae may never see that message because she may never check that folder. This doesn't happen in every situation. It doesn't happen in every situation. Oftentimes, if you have friends in common, like there may be someone who they have already friended at your scholarship organization, and you share that friend in common, then this little message may not appear. Depending on their privacy setting, they may not have set it up, and it may not appear. So it's always good to look for that, because if it's there, then you run the risk that they may not even see it. If it's not there, then whatever message you send them will go directly to their inbox. And once again, we're dealing with a group of students, an age range of people that have a high percentage of checking their Facebook as soon as they get up in the morning, before they even get out of the bed. They're checking it at night before they go to bed. So if you send them a message, curiosity's piqued, who sent me a message, oh, it's so-and-so from such and such, they will read your message. Once they read your message, I can guarantee they're going to want to go to your Facebook page. You send them a message, they'll see your picture, they'll click on your picture, it'll go to your profile. So one of the things you want to do when you send them that message, and this is a part of the disarming phase, you want to control the tone of the message. You want to consciously put something in there that is warm, that is engaging, that is inviting. Hello, Shantae, I need your information so I can process your scholarship. Bye. That's not going to get as much of a response than a more warm, congenial interaction. So control the tone of that message. It does help out. What is the tone of your profile picture? Because once again, they'll see it, they'll go to your page, and they'll want to know, hey, do you look stern? Are you stoic? Are you somebody I don't even want to deal with because you need my GPA and I know I didn't do the best last semester and I already have this impression about you that you're going to be a stickler, and when I look at your profile picture, it's just you against the white wall. Kind of control that image as well by putting a profile picture out there that shows a gentler side, a softer side, a human side.
Rashim, we have a question that I'm going to interrupt you for because I think it's kind of pertinent to what you're talking about.
Sure.
And the question is, when you're reaching out, are you doing it as you personally or as your organization's Facebook page? This person knows how it works with my personal page, but are people that follow your organization's page friends, and where does the message go to them without landing in the other box?
Can you repeat the second half of that question for me just so that I'm clear?
Sure. Are people that follow your organization's page friends, and then where does the message go, where will the message go to them without landing in the other box?
Okay. To start with the beginning of that question, whether you do it from your organization's page or your personal page is a personal preference. I work with people who utilized an organizational page or their personal page, or they set up a separate professional page that's not the organization, but it's their professional vehicle to reach out to people individually. It's still their page, but it's set up by a separate email address, and they use it to reach out to their students. But once again, It's personal preference. If you're doing it by way of the organizational page and you are the one who manages that page, that might not work as well, and it may not work as well because it seems more like it's spam coming from the organization. And once again, we want to create an environment where it seems like it's an individual touch. You're individually present in that student's life. So you can try to reach out by way of your organizational page. If you do, and you're going message to message, with most organizational pages, if you send it, if the student's privacy setting blocks out anyone that's not their friend, we have no control over that. It's going to go into their other folder. We have no control over that. If they have a privacy setting that will accept all types of messages, then it'll go to their inbox. And once again, those are things that we don't control because they have their privacy settings set up to work that way. And when we get to privacy, I'll talk about how you can set up your privacy settings if you choose to use your own personal page. My own experience, I don't have multiple pages. I have one page. It's my page. Friends, family, colleagues, whoever wants to get in contact with me can contact me through that page. But I have my settings configured in a way that they can only see what I want them to see. They can only post what I want them to post. And anytime they attempt to do anything, I have full control over that. So, and we'll get to that later. And I hope that answered your question. So moving on, bottom line is we want the page, whether you use your own personal page or you set up a page on behalf of your organization, we want the page to be inviting. Because these students, if they don't feel welcomed, they will not engage. They'll pull away. So that's the bottom line. After disarm, we talk about being authentic. And once again, I use my own personal page. This is an old screen grab of my page. Projects that I work on, because once again, I'm not just a scholarship person. So they can get a glimpse of the fact that I am a writer. That might pique someone else's interest. That might pique a student's interest. Well, I started writing short stories. I started writing poetry. Tell me about your experiences. What we're now doing is we're building a relationship so that I can be present in that student's life. You build a relationship, it's more likely that they'll respond to you when you need them to respond to you. So I throw whatever breadcrumb out there I can throw out there, and hopefully it'll lead them to me. My own profile picture at this point in time, it was a clone, if you will. I've cloned myself multiple times in a photo. And if they have to look at that photo, then they'll see 3 different versions of me. Might pique an interest. So in being authentic, I like to also be transparent. There isn't anything that I wouldn't put on Facebook that I would put on Facebook that I wouldn't put on my front door. There isn't anything that'll go on Facebook for me that I am not comfortable sharing with the world. So I have no problem with them taking a look at this, seeing my personality, seeing things that I am in, and hopefully are things that I'm interested in, and hopefully that's sparking an interest in them so that we can build a relationship. So the being authentic, it's a key piece. At least I believe it's a key piece. And all of this is subjective. Let me say, none of this is empirical study. None of this is documented research. This is all subjective in terms of how I use Facebook and how successful it has been. When I started in this organization, and I said, hey, I'm going to use Facebook to reach out to these students, I was encouraged to do that, and there was a clear difference in the number of students that were coming in to see me versus other folk. And it became a revolving door. So I can say from personal experience that these subjective ideas have worked. So last piece was follow up. Once you grab them, once you got them, there's got to be some follow-up, some follow-through. And what I like to do is take advantage of peak times. There are peak times. These students are not on Facebook as much on Friday because it's the beginning of their weekend, over the weekend because they're busy having fun, and then on Monday. they spend less time using Facebook during that period. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's on fire. And it's more on fire between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. So, yeah, they're checking it when they get up. They're checking it when they go to sleep. But they're spending time on it in the middle of the week. So utilize that. If I send you a message on a Friday morning, I don't anticipate hearing back from that student until Tuesday. And if they hit me up before then, I'm shocked. So I utilize an understanding of when those peak times are midweek between 1 and 3. And students, they may need a little time, so give it to them. You send them a message. You don't have to hit them up the very next day, because at that point in time, you just become we become annoying if we send them 3 messages within a 48-hour period, and those 3 messages are saying the same 3 things. So we want to be able to utilize peak time, but we also want to give them time to respond. So typically, I'll give them 3-4 business days before I send them another message. And if they do respond, I would say immediately confirm a good address and a good phone number. Those things change, like I said. So if you get them, hey, you got a phone number I can call you on? What's the email you use? Because they'll give an email address. It might be an email address if they're a college student. It might be an address they used when they were in high school. Chances are they're not checking that address. So confirm something that they currently use. And then, as soon as you can, set up a face-to-face meeting if they're local students, if they're within your region, if they're not away at college. Set up a face-to-face meeting, because what I would like for us to do is focus on building relationships with these students. If we need something from them and we build a relationship with them, they're more likely to be to respond positively to what we need. General Colin Powell had written the Leadership Primer years ago, and he talked about how if a soldier in a field had stopped going to his general, the soldier came to the conclusion that one of 2 things: the general either no longer could help him, or the general no longer cared. And what we've got to do is we've got to put ourselves in the lives of these students as if we are someone who can help them, and we care about them more so than I'm just doing my job and give me your information so I can get you this money. They're not going to do what they need to do just because it's good for them. So what we can do is we can manage that experience. So that's the follow-up piece. And once again, I don't see that there's anything wrong with accepting a friend request. If you accept a friend request, there's a small area right here where it says friends, and then it lists different friends lists. But if you click more, once you click more, what will happen is it'll bring you to a separate page where you can actually start creating friends lists and manage those lists. And once you create them, you can drop all of your students into one friend list, and it could just be my students. You name it, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. List name, you name it, and then you can just start typing in your students' names. You put the students' names, you've created that list. You hit create, all of them are in that list. Once they're all in that list, you manage all of your privacy settings right here from this little lock. Anytime you see a lock, we're talking privacy. You have a list. All of your students are in that list. You can click this lock, and they don't show everything right here. So what you would do is you would click See More Settings. And once you see more settings, then it brings up the good stuff. Privacy, tagging, timeline and tagging, blocking. You can just literally block people. So when you click privacy, it gives you an opportunity. This little area says, who can see my stuff? If you hit custom, you hit edit, and you select custom, you can start picking the different friend lists of the different people you want to be able to see your stuff. Who can contact you? Whether or not everyone can contact you, or just individual people, friends, friends of friends, or open to the public. You can play with it. Just go down the list of edit. Click edit. Who can look me up? You can actually block people from using that search bar to even look you up. You won't even come up as a friend of a friend or a shared friend. So play with the privacy settings. You click that lock, you go to see more settings, you come up with a privacy, and you just start playing with it. And if you play with the privacy settings, you'll find yourself in more control. Let me see. Show you one more piece. This is the timeline and tagging. Very important. So you're out with your friends, you're having a celebratory drink. You don't want your students to even see that you have a glass of wine in your hand. You can play with the timeline and tagging to make sure that no one can see what's on your timeline, only specific people can see what's on your timeline, and no one can tag you in other photos. Your cousin takes a photo and puts it on Facebook. They can't tag you without your permission. So if they attempt to, you have the ability to accept or decline that tag. With most of these timeline and tagging settings, you select the friends list that you want to select. You select whether or not people can tag you. If you want to play around and just see what other folks can see on your page, view it through their eyes, who can see things on my timeline? If you go over to View As and you click it, it'll switch to a Facebook page, your profile. You can type the name of the person that you want to test in a search box, and then once you hit enter, it'll bring up your page the way they see it. And what they see will be very different than what you show because you've managed everything. You've set your timeline and your tagging settings, you've set your privacy settings, and they won't be able to see what you don't want them to see. And then blocking, if they're just students, or people in general, you don't want to see your page at all. You click blocking, and in this area you type their name, you save it. They don't get any messaging, any noticing. They're blocked from your page. They won't be able to find you. They won't be able to see you. So what I wanted to do was just talk about how pervasive the social media piece is, specifically dealing with Facebook, how to use Facebook to reach out to these students, and then talk about a few things dealing with privacy so that if you choose to reach out to the students and use Facebook, you can create your own friends list. You can set privacy settings where you are in complete control of what can be seen and shared on your account. Now, I'm hoping that having gone through this has been helpful. And what we'll do now is I'll come out of this this sharing screen because we don't need to share that screen anymore. And if you have any questions, and please, Sarah and Jolene, let me know if anything is screwed up.
Will do.
On the other end.
Okay.
But if you don't have any questions, I can address your questions right now.
Okay, I have some coming in. The first one is, do you utilize the peak times specifically when you need a response from a student? And the second part of that question is, would you post on Fridays if you were using Facebook in a more fun, general, or advertising way?
During peak times, if I feel like I need an immediate response, I will definitely post on peak times. It doesn't always work, but there have been great responses that have come during peak if I needed something immediately. If it's someone that I've already begun a relationship with and I know that they're more likely to check their Facebook messages before they check a voicemail message, I'll definitely shoot them something on Facebook, because on Facebook, when you send them that message, we all know there's a read receipt. There's a date and a timestamp, so I know that they've seen that message. So yes, if I need something immediately and it's during that peak time, and I know they're out and about because I have all of my student schedules, yes, I will. And what was the second part of that question? The advertising it on Friday?
If you were using Facebook in a more fun, general, or advertising way.
In a more fun, general advertising way, I don't. because that peak time is across the board, not necessarily just with my target population, with the age range, the age group that I work with. It's across the board. So oftentimes, if I'm posting something and I want people to see it, because we all get vain every once in a while. We want to post that good picture or that wise comment. Yeah, I typically don't do it Friday through Sunday. I kind of wait until the end of the day Monday, because they're gearing back up to be back on Facebook on Tuesday. But yeah, I practice a little bit of discipline and do the things that I would like to have a response to, because I use Facebook to engage people. And when I want to engage, I typically try to do that during peak time.
Okay, the next question is, have you ever tried setting up a closed group and inviting your scholars to join? If so, what was your experience?
Yes, I have. And I had a very good experience. I work with a cohort of students that have graduated high school in 2013, and what I have to do is I have to keep track of them. I had to reach out to them because some of them did not immediately go to college, and what I found, which was extremely helpful, was creating that closed group and inviting those students to that group. And through that, students started to add me as a friend. My students, I'll talk specifically about my students, it appeared as if they just loved to be a part of something, loved to be a part of a group. There are a bunch of closed groups on Facebook, and for them to be invited into a closed group, they loved it. Once you start a closed group, before you reach a certain number of members, you can send out messages en masse. And I don't know exactly what that number is, maybe 20, 25, or 30. But once you've reached that max number, then you cannot send mass messages out to everyone. But you can make use of the wall, just like you would have a wall on your own Facebook page. And you can post flyers, information, programs on that wall. And then once it's posted on the wall, it ends up on their own individual walls because they are friends within this they have joined this closed group. No one else will see it outside of the people who are in that closed group. And that has been extremely helpful with communicating with my students when we have had programming, when I needed them to hop on it and fill out their FAFSAs for financial aid. And quickly, my group went to almost 115, 120 students, and I was working with a cohort of nearly 170 students. So I got a very good response from that.
Okay. Are there any other questions out there? If so, please type them either in the chat box or up in the Q&A at the top of your Global Meet screen and let us know. All right, Rashim, I don't have any more questions coming in. If someone else has a question or wants more information, please email me at the NSPA, and I will forward that information to Rashim. Rashim, I want to thank you so much. Do you have any last words for our group today?
Last words, I would say don't be intimidated or fearful. Share elements of yourself. And if you are not used to actually being on Facebook, it's one of those things that you use it or lose it. You gotta be out there. You gotta do it. You gotta periodically hop on and actually navigate the platform, because Facebook is quick to change the platform on you overnight, and you'll wake up to a brand new Facebook. But use it. I guarantee you that if you're using it to reach out to your students and you're building these relationships with your students, that it will come in handy, especially when you need to receive information from them or share information with the students.
Great. Thank you so much. I wanted to let you know that and let the group know that this session has been recorded. It will be available on the NSPA website within the next day or two. And Rashim, we want to thank you so much for your time in the presentation. We really appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day.
Enjoy your day. Thank you.
Thank you.